Thank you all for joining Darien Library this evening for Exploring Darien, with local experts sharing trends in architecture, interior design, and real estate with Charles Hilton, Fiona Leonard, and Julie Peters. And the panel will be moderated by David Genovese of Baywater Properties, the developer of the Corbin District. If you still need to grab a copy of Classic Greenwich Houses by Charles Hilton, be sure to stop by our co-sponsor Barrett Bookstore and pick one up. Before we begin, I'd like to mention that programs at Darien Library are made possible by the annual Friends of the Library campaign. We thank you for your support to make programs like this, as well as our collections, available to the public. I hope everyone's ready to enjoy an up-to-the-minute look at what is going on in Darien on the housing front in both design and sales. And I'm now going to pass the mic to David.
Thank you so much, Pat. It's my pleasure tonight to be the moderator for this discussion. When I was first asked to do it, I thought, I don't know if I belong in this group. But it's really my pleasure to lead the conversation. With me tonight is Chuck Hilton. Charles Hilton is Darien's own award-winning architect who's designed hundreds of homes and estates across the country over the past 33 years. Although his firm's work stretches from coast to coast, its focus continues to be beautifully crafted residences in Fairfield and Westchester County. As an architect, Hilton is committed to designing imaginative buildings that delight and inspire, and to creating a humanistic architecture that embodies the aspirations of his clients. His work represents a wide variety of traditional vocabularies, executed with meticulous detailing and the finest quality craftsmanship. Hilton's work has been featured in more than 100 regional and national publications, focusing on such topics as traditional residential design, waterfront homes, green design, and historic preservation. Hilton has also been the recipient of over 75 design awards from organizations such as the AIA, the Institute of Classical Architecture and Art. He's also a member of the New England Design Hall of Fame and a top 50 coastal architect. As Chuck and his team move into 2021, they're focused on smart building by incorporating new technologies that families are looking for. Also with us is Fiona Leonard of Fiona Leonard Interiors. As the principal of Fiona Leonard Interiors, Fiona creates spaces that build simplicity and beauty around everyday life. Her approach is to pare back each client's desired aesthetic to its most essential form, and then develop it through layered, livable selections. With palette, textiles, art, and objects that are consistently elevated and edited, she reflects a homeowner's truest aspirations and finished designs that inspire a sense of place. Prior to launching her eponymous firm, Fiona honed her lifelong interest in art and design into the practical skills and craft of the trade through tenures at the firms of renowned designers and mentors Cindy Rinfret and Susan Alsberg. There she began cultivating relationships with foremost artisans, textile houses, craftsmen, and subcontractors throughout Fairfield County and New York City, which continue to serve her clients today. She lives in Darien, Connecticut with her 3 children, her husband, and her pampered pets. Lastly, Julie Peters. Julie is an award-winning Darien resident and an award-winning real estate broker with over 25 years of negotiating experience. Julie holds a degree in advertising with an emphasis in marketing from Southern Methodist University. And after graduation, she was trained as a professional buyer for a national upscale department store. Julie expanded her professional experience into sales and worked as the director of corporate accounts for a manufacturer of luxury goods. And in 2005, Julie entered the real estate industry as a licensed salesperson and most recently obtained her broker's license. This past year, she was invited to join the American Dream TV show, a nationally televised show where she is able to feature lifestyle and real estate in a monthly segment. It's a unique opportunity for her clients to expose their properties to a much wider audience. and her expertise in negotiating price and terms of a transaction and her ability to bring two parties together are the trademarks of her business. Work with Julie and you get the complete package of marketing, buying, and selling. So with that, we'll turn it over to the group and we'll have a conversation about real estate generally. I think just because of the nature of what's happened in this crazy time that we've been in, the pandemic, we've all heard about so much in-migration from New York and so much demand for housing in Fairfield County in general and Darien in particular. I think I'd like to start with Julie and just ask her to give us kind of a perspective on what's been going on the last year, what she's seeing in the market in terms of buyers and sellers and what they want, what they're looking at, and where she thinks things could be in the next few months.
Thanks, David. Well, what a year. I mean, I think in so many ways, but, unexpected is, I think, when it, kind of sums it up. I think I made mention to this group in a smaller environment at one point that, I think it was the third week of March, and I'm sitting in my office thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to do for business this year? Because, we were all locked down. But, the light switch definitely flipped when we were deemed essential workers, and so it really changed things for the outlook of real estate, which had been soft. So I'm going to start with a few statistics and, just to ground, like where we were and where, and what happened. And I think that you'll find that very interesting. So starting with 2019, we closed in Darien in residential units, roughly 277 units. And that's a little bit on the softer side. The one notable thing is at that point in time, our median price point was at $1,261,000, which, was significantly down over the 10-year history in this market. So fast forward to, 2020, did we ever think that we would sell, over 400 homes in Darien, Connecticut, single family 416. If you throw condos in there, I think we're at like 436, which was the most units we've ever sold in the history of Darien. So it was incredible. As realtors, we were all very thankful. But the other thing that happened too is the median price point did, go back up to kind of what we had seen as a historical level of $1,454,000. So that it was very healthy for us. And, the trend continues, so that was great. That was history. That's how we ended 2020. But in 2021, what's happening right now? So historically, January can be kind of a quiet month with the snow and the cold. People tend not to be out there shopping for homes. A lot of the sales that we have pending were things that maybe happened in December. Again, not a high volume month traditionally. But right now we have 44 homes pending in Darien. And last year we had 16. So we are up 175% in pending sales right now, versus last year, which is, again, just incredible. The other part of the story that I'm sure you're hearing out there is the inventory. Right now we have roughly 70 homes, could be one or two plus or minus by the end of today, versus last year of 185 at the same time. So we are down, 49.2% in inventory. We need homes, people. We need homes to sell. We have people out there looking for real estate, and we are, so tight on inventory. So that kind of gives you an overview. And, David, I'm happy to pass it back to you and continue the conversation.
Yeah. Is there a difference in what people are looking for today versus what they were looking for, a year or two ago? I mean, I was hearing a couple of years ago that, all these new buyers in the market, like nobody wanted a project. Everybody wanted the perfectly done house with an interior design by Fiona, architectural designs by Chuck. Are people willing to execute a fixer-upper, or is?
Yeah, you know what? So they are definitely more open to a project than they were before. It's a matter of just finding a house at this point in time. One of the things that has become challenging is finding, people to do that work, because even people who aren't moving for the first time, people who are staying in their homes, are looking around their home now that we've spent so much time here, and they're doing work too. So I do think that there is a higher tolerance for that. And, you mentioned what people are looking for. We've definitely seen a difference in the type of home that was high on people's list. Before, it was really something smaller, the right size home. I don't want a lot of yard. I don't want to, I want to be able to potentially walk or get to the train within 5 minutes. I want to be able to, spend my time downtown at the restaurants, this, that. Now, that's really shifted to larger parcels of land, recreation at home, pools, home gyms, home offices, a lot of times 2 home offices. So things that were kind of not trending before are suddenly popular again. So we're definitely seeing that.
That's a great segue into, one of the reasons we're here today or tonight is to talk about this amazing book that Chuck put together called Classic Greenwich Houses, which is available at Barrett Bookstore in downtown Darien. Chuck, could you, your career, your portfolio is incredible. I spent about 2 hours this afternoon. I shouldn't have spent 2 hours this afternoon. I had a lot going on, but once I opened this book, I could not put it down. And I had incredible architectural envy. Could you take us through kind of what inspired you to publish the book and just tell us a little bit about it? And then we'll get to talk of design.
Thanks, David. Yeah, I came to this area 32 years ago. I had started my career very young, working in architects' offices in high school and in college. And by the time I graduated, I knew I really wanted to do fabulous high-end residential work. And so, at graduation time, I researched and was really looking for a place I could do that. And I think it panned out pretty well. That main decision. This area has an incredible history of wonderful residential design, starting all the way back in the colonial period through the 1800s, through a period of land development and great estates, through revivals in modern architecture. And our neighborhoods are filled with these amazing houses, that we get to, be inspired by and kind of respond to in our work. And also, I think just the proximity to New York City and the cultural resources, the people that move here from around the country and around the world, and the financial resources, obviously, to pay for all these things, make this a very fertile and unique area like few in the country. And so, I felt it was a special place, and that we've gotten to do a lot of unique and special, work as I travel around the country and even around the world, and people see some of the projects we get to do. They're really excited by it. And so, kind of at 3 decades, I said, geez, I think it's time to put this down in writing and be able to share it, beyond our close-knit group here in Fairfield and Westchester County. So it was a real labor of love, and we're very proud of it. And thank you for sharing your thoughts on it too.
No, it's an incredible book. And I think that the thing I took away from it that was so unique is so many times I feel like so many architects have a sort of style. They have a pattern of behavior, a pattern of expression, and you can drive by and see a home and say, okay, I know who did that. And 9 out of 10 times you'll guess it correctly. But what you seem to possess, to me, which is what makes your work so amazing, is this incredible ability to kind of express so many different architectural styles. The book is really, really amazing in that regard. And I take it, some of it comes from your feelings about what would be right for the site, but also what the clients are interested in and what their aspirations are. But the varied nature of your work is really just incredible.
That's exactly it. The site is critical, and the clients are all so different, and we try to find something, unique, an expression that's unique and special, to each client, and therefore, the design stylistically is kind of all over the map. But I hope the approach and the content of them is similar in quality and character.
and I just had one question too. What do you like more? Do you like more kind of tabula rasa, green, clean slate, do whatever idea you and the client come up with? Or do you like the projects? I mean, you've done some very interesting projects where you redesigned or renovated existing grand estates. Which do you like more? Which do you find more interesting?
That's a hard one. I like whatever yields the best architecture. And so, if there's an opportunity to do something fabulous, I'm very happy to take an old home and bring it back. And I mean, again, I just it's going to be a marketing. If you go to our website and you look at the renovations, some of the before and afters are just really amazing of what we've been able to do. Some houses don't translate that well, and the opportunities aren't as good. And then it's always nice when you can make a fresh start and really kind of design everything and control everything in the project. So I enjoy both equally for different reasons.
And Fiona, thinking about you for a minute, my sense is that, well, I think that dentists and cosmetic surgeons are extremely busy because all of us, who are sitting here on Zoom calls all day, staring at ourselves, are realizing the imperfections we want to fix. Like I have this chipped tooth that's driving me bananas now that I stare at myself all day on a Zoom call. Oh, did we lose Fiona? We may have lost her.
Looks like it.
Oh no. Oh, we'll have to come back to Fiona, but I wanted to talk to her about how busy she must be given the fact that we're all home, staring at our homes and realizing, what we want to do. Julie, to you, is that triggering kind of a new inspiration to move up? Because I think there was a period of time where I was hearing that there weren't a lot of move up buyers in the market. People were kind of nesting and staying where they were.
Yeah, and Fiona's back. I'll answer that real quickly, and then we can jump back to Fiona. Yeah, I think one of the problems, in recent years, I don't even know if it's a problem, but there was a little bit of a stalemate. We were a little bit stuck because people were, historically, back when I bought my home, homes were appreciating very, very quickly. The last few years, we saw, very minor appreciations. And so, in order to sell your home and buy the next one, you didn't, have all of those gains that you had enjoyed in the past. So people were more hesitant to trade up. But also there's this whole group of people who are now working at home who thought they might trade up in 3 to 5 years and have suddenly found their homes too small, especially with, 2 or 3 kids homeschooling at the same time. So there's definitely been, much more of a trade up market. So I hope that answers that for you. And yeah. I know you had asked Fiona a question, so I'll let her answer.
Yeah, Fiona, I'm not sure where we lost you, but I was getting to the question of, how busy are you with everybody home, for unprecedented percentages of each week now. We're all looking at our homes and working in certain rooms that maybe we hadn't paid that much attention to. Is your phone ringing off the hook, and do you even have the capacity to take on more work right now? What's going on in your studio?
Oh, it's been unbelievable. Old clients, new clients, people are calling, people are tired of looking at their houses, and I don't blame them. I feel the same way. Things need to be refreshed and revived, and it has such an impact on your life to look around your house and feel content versus looking around and feeling frustrated. So it has been very busy. There is always room for more projects and more things to do, but yes, it's been unbelievable. And Julie, like you, in March, I thought, oh my gosh, nobody's going to care about wallpapering their dining room. But lo and behold, they do, because they're doing Zoom in their dining room and they want their dining room to look great. So it's been a busy but wonderful year.
Yeah, you just get the sense that people are living in their homes in a way they never imagined they would, and they're living in different rooms that they might not have used in the past or nearly as much, and realizing, how different their needs may be today versus what they thought. And I think, to some extent, I think a lot of this is here to stay with us. I mean, the Zoom calls, work from home. I mean, we own our company owns office buildings as well in Fairfield County. And so I hope that not everybody works from home forever. But I think, talking to a lot of real estate people out there, especially corporate real estate people, the real sense we get is that the most likely outcome is that you'll get a return to work when we have mass vaccination, but or more normal work. But people will probably have a little more flexibility to work a day or two a week from home, which I think is a good thing for the suburban markets. It's a good thing for a town like Darien, a trend like that. And I would never have guessed in a million years that a pandemic would force upon us this experiment in work from home, this mass experiment in work from home, but it surely has. And the outcome has been really interesting and nothing we could have predicted.
It's true.
Well, you know what, and you mentioned the work from home and, not, so one of the trends that we saw, especially when the pandemic started, I would have clients that I met because they were coming to Darien and they expanded their search. So I don't know, Fiona and Charles, if you're seeing this too, but the borders that I generally work got expanded up the line because they were, willing to go further, and you get more for your money as you go up the line. And, we had, like I said, an unbelievable year here, but the hottest market this past, in 2020 was actually Westport. Westport was up 77% in the number of units they sold over the year before. And, they're a little bit larger. Their pricing was probably 20 to 25% less than Darien, and they have a lot of public amenities. So that was another interesting thing that came out of this. So I held on for dear life with those people and I sold them homes there. But, I am also seeing, and that kind of happened, but I'm also seeing a trend to kind of come back to Darien because now people are more aware that, they're hearing, buzz from their companies about, needing to start being in the office again, whether it's June, July, September, or whatever they're saying. And those people are still concerned with the commute, which is one thing that makes Darien real estate really strong, is not only our schools, but the commute on the main line is still important. So I think, we're going to come out on top here, to tell you the truth.
That's great to hear. That's obviously music to my ears. We're cooking a downtown project that we hope pours a little gas on this burning ember.
Yeah.
Could I ask a question of Chuck and Fiona together, one at a time, just, looking at Chuck's book. I mean, the homes themselves are beautiful, the detail, the molding, the lighting, but the furnishings are extraordinary as well. And, they say that the best projects are often the result of great collaboration between architects, designers, builders, and the craftsmen chosen to do the work. Can you describe your approach to collaborating on projects and maybe discuss some collaborations that have worked particularly well for you? Like if you were advising someone trying to put the team together, what would your best advice be?
My experience is the really great projects are always a big collaboration, and it can be it depends on the size of the project, but some smaller projects, maybe you have a few collaborators, and on larger projects, many more than you could imagine. I mean, on the design professionals, on a big new home, we'd have an architect, a landscape architect, civil engineer, structural engineer, mechanical engineer, zoning people, land planner. Then there's the owner's team, and sometimes it's not just the owner, but an owner's rep, financial people, realtors, and those people involved in decision making. And then the contractors, who are also your partners and essential to getting things done. The GC, the subcontractors, the artisans, and suppliers. And so it's really important that you have good teamwork. The best owners put terrific teams together, or pick a lead person to help them assemble a great team. And we've been blessed. I mean, I have the one project in the book, Sleepy Cat Farm, the French Normandy house. I mean, I've been working with that team, in one capacity or another for like 25 years now, over like 8 projects, and have, many other clients that maybe you have multiple homes or multiple projects on a property. And it's always a pleasure too, when you can put an old team back together and everybody knows everybody and knows, everybody's strength and gets along well. So it's critical. It's like a movie director, and I think each project's different, and you pick the right team for the right project, and if you get a good team, you get an amazing product at the end.
I totally agree. Last year, I had the pleasure of working on a project with a realtor friend who connected me with a friend and a contractor that's worked on my own personal home. And it became sort of the dream team. We all respected each other and listened to each other and were open to suggestions, and the collaboration's what made it such an incredible project. And I think that the client really got the best out of all of us. And I think then there's so much goodwill from that experience that leads to other things. So, just being open to other perspectives is huge, and seeing the project from all angles is huge. We all bring such different things to the table, and it's nice to collaborate like that.
Cool. And Julie, question for you relative to this. When, in your opinion, should a homeowner get an architect and an interior designer involved during the home buying process? At what point do you think it makes sense, or is there not enough time in this market that we're in right now?
Well,
You've got to kind of make up your mind quickly, and you're not going to have time to assemble a team or.
It's different, and it depends on what your intentions are. I think a lot of people that I shop with, will go through a house and they'll be like, oh, someday I can do this, someday I can do that. And maybe the renovation isn't, necessarily like right then. I usually recommend to them for those cases, live in your house a little while, then, start meeting with the architect, because you'll change your mind like 10 times before you actually do the project. So if there's not an immediate need, that's something they can do and live with it. There are other projects where the home is clearly in need of renovation right away. And it's always very good, on one of your visits, if you can, to bring in an architect and a designer, so that way you can see if your dream vision of that house is actually feasible. I always warn people off, though, that, they're not going to be able to put a price tag on the walkthrough. People always want to know, how much is this going to cost me? And I always advise them, I'm like, look, what, they're going to tell you whether or not the project can be done, what the actual details are going to end up being the costs. And until you have actual building plans, you can't get there. So, I always say the sooner the better. So that way, if you're really looking at a complete renovation project, you have some expectations. And I mean, I think that anytime that, on a design front, even if somebody's looking to make improvements to sell their home later, I think it's great to consult with a designer like Fiona, or, an architect, to see if those things, are going to bring value to the home later as well. So
yeah,
I would build on that just to say that, you're right. I mean, the first one of the early questions is how much it's going to cost. And usually I defer them to a contractor who's got, maybe a better hand on the pulse of the cost, or you could use a square foot. And then, assessing the condition of the house. There's, amazing home inspectors to do that. But where I think the design professionals can really contribute is, the vision of whether something can be done. And so, a common goal is, I'd like higher ceilings, but the house has 8-foot ceilings. It's not really that feasible to lift the whole second floor up and make a 10-foot ceiling. And a lot of people might not realize that. On the other hand, sometimes the outside is just a disaster, but it just needs to be redressed, or a room can just be kind of redressed, and it's not as big of a deal as you would think it would be. And I think that's where design professionals, with a vision, can kind of quickly assess the potential of a project, without obviously getting nitty gritty, like how much is that going to cost?
Or even just get the feel of a project. I've recently had clients who are out shopping with real estate agents looking for their home, saying, can you come with me and look at these 2 houses that we're considering, because we can't decide which is the right house. And I'm not saying that I can decide it for them, but in this one situation, I went out and within the two houses, there was a clear feeling of light and brightness and things that you can't reconfigure or rejigger. And it was just placement on the plot of land. And we were able to narrow down, it's not going to be this house, it might be this house. So, and sometimes a client can figure that out, but sometimes they want somebody else to say to them, I need help with this. Please let me know if you think I can make this work.
Yeah, I think for most of us, we don't have the experience, going in and out of 100 houses a year, however many homes, you're involved with each year. So we don't have the eye to kind of see the solution to the problem that maybe presents itself. But getting someone like you, Fiona, involved early, probably could be of great value to someone just trying to wrap their head around, what's really going to work for them long term.
Definitely.
But it's intimidating for people often to hire an interior decorator. And I think now with social media, I wonder if social media has like helped or hurt you in your business. People are just bombarded and flooded with images. It probably gives them, do they come in now with like images from Pinterest and say like, these are the things I love, like help me figure out how to execute this in my home? Can people better articulate now what they like through the availability of all these images?
I think they can. I also think it helps plant a seed. I've had so many people reach out to me and say, oh, that entry you posted makes me realize I need to work on my entry. I need to make it more welcoming, or just open their eyes to things they might not have considered before. So I think it's been a tool, and used in the right way can really open doors and facilitate a conversation about how they can make their house better.
Mm. And Julie, from your point of view, I mean, you're looking at so many homes and interacting with people that are reacting to, configurations and rooms. I mean, where do you think, for those of us who own a home who might consider selling at some point in the next year or two, what are the rooms that have the most impact? Where's the most value in the home? Is it the open kitchen? Is it home offices?
Well, I think that where do we all spend, 90% of our time, or maybe not right now, but we're home. But the kitchen family room situation, I think that it probably is one of your highest returns on investment for sure. People will come in and it's like, what, they can paint, they can recarpet, they can refinish the floors, that sort of thing, but they start getting overwhelmed at the bigger projects, which are generally the kitchens and baths. If you're going to, if you have the budget to redo one bath, obviously do the master bath, because that's the person buying the home. So, I would say that those two things are very, very important. If you have a bedroom that you're not using, stage it as an office, if you don't have a dedicated office, say you have a smaller home and you can, so those are the things. And I think that those are constants, whether it's, COVID times or not.
David, another space that I found, in addition to the kitchen, which Julia would have said the same thing, is an outdoor living space. I feel more than ever, people are wanting a place to entertain safely, and an outdoor, a deck, a fire pit, someplace where they can gather and still feel connected to friends and neighbors. And I think that's a place that had often gotten overlooked in the past, at least initially. I would tell clients to focus on the inside of the house and then move to the outside, but I feel like we're really needing that space to feel normal. So I think that's
great point. Yeah,
we filed for a permit recently in Darien for our project on East Lane, and we went in to see Jeremy Ginsburg, and the poor guy looked at me and he had a stack of applications on his desk, and he said, "These are the pool applications for the people that want their pools by this summer." So you're at the bottom of the pile. I mean, the number of fire pits and pools that are being built right now in these markets is just extraordinary.
Yeah.
Well, and to the pool point, it's interesting. I mean, pools historically in real estate, I would tell my clients, they'd be like, Julie, is it going to add value? And I would say to them, do a pool if it's valuable to you, but please do not expect that it's going to add $100,000 of value to your property, because there were just many people who did not want a pool for safety concerns or just maintenance concerns, that did. So it was kind of a neutral thing. Whereas this past year, man, if you had a pool, it was a good thing.
Well, weren't those the first houses to rent when that first wave of renters showed up trying to get out of Manhattan? I
Yes.
mean, that's what we were hearing, that if you had a pool, you could rent your house for X. A friend of mine was telling me a story of a friend in Greenwich who was he and his wife are empty nesters, and they live in this nice home. I don't think it's one of like Chuck's kind of homes, beautiful, like extraordinary estate, but a very nice home. And someone called through a broker and said, my client is interested in renting your home for a month this summer. Would you be interested in renting it for, let's say it was $10,000 per month? And the fellow said, no, I really wouldn't even know what to do. I don't know where to go. It's really not worth my time. I can't do it. So a couple days later, the broker called back. My client would like to know, would you be willing to rent your house for $20,000 for the month? And he said, really, no, it's just for a month. It's just not worth it. I'm sorry. And 3 days later, the broker called back and said, my client is willing to pay you $30,000 a month upfront for 12 months if you would, if you'd be interested in renting your home for a year. And so the fellow invited the client and the broker over, and his wife was in the family room. And so he said, honey, I'd like you to meet the people who've rented our house for the next 12 months.
Oh my God.
I think he went to Nantucket or something. Anyway, that house had a pool.
Yeah.
Chuck, on to your design. What's your favorite room to design? What's the room that you kind of spend the most time on in one of these extraordinary homes when you're at the drafting table?
It's always I think it's the unusual ones, David. I mean, in a lot of ways, the houses we do, I mean, every house has a kitchen, family room, master suite, a nice entry, and we do a nice job with all those things. But like I said earlier, I try to, everything we do pretty much is custom, and I try to make the houses really special for the clients. And so, everybody has a passion, and for some people it's cooking and entertaining. For other people it's sports, and we've done a basketball court, a squash court, a golf simulator room, the indoor pool. For other people it's the garden and the yard and the integration. Some people are art collectors, some people are car collectors, designed for car barn. And so those are the things that are different. They're fun. You can be really creative and unique, and people are willing to invest in some really fun architecture. So I always try to find something special that's really unique and personal to the client, and then do a fabulous job with it. So.
And Fiona, I mean, is there an area that you're particularly excited about right now? A room or an area of a home that you're particularly excited about and getting
Absolutely.
involved with?
There are two. I love variety, like Chuck, and I feel like finding your client's passion and expanding on that is amazing. But what I found so fun to decorate this year is teenagers' spaces. I feel like teenagers are one of the demographics that are suffering so much in this pandemic because they're supposed to be spreading their wings and they really can't. So this year I've had the opportunity of designing some spaces for them and making hangout spaces and lounges and places where they can feel comfortable and they can do their schoolwork, but they can also hang out, watch a movie. And I just feel like that has been so incredibly rewarding. I also have a teenager, so I'm kind of tuned into that. And the other space I love decorating is a mudroom. I love creating a space that you can open your Amazon packages, you can put your stuff away, you can get prepared for the next day, and just thoughtfully thinking through how you enter your home. Charles, I'm sure you do so many beautiful, grand entrances that are for welcoming people into your home, but there's been so little of that this year. I think so many people have just come in and out of the mudroom. So making that be a thoughtful spot has been rewarding and exciting.
Yeah, that's a good, I wouldn't have thought of that, but it makes sense. I mean, in our house, it was sort of an afterthought. That might be the one room that just doesn't work, and we may need to I may need to call you for some help on reinventing the mudroom.
Yeah.
On to healthy homes. And by the way, I'm going to make a comment too to the public. If people have questions that they'd like me to direct to any of the panelists, please enter them into the chat room or into the Q&A, and we'll be happy to do that. It's 7:42, so in a few minutes we're going to turn it over to questions. But before we do, I do want to just talk for a little bit about healthy homes. We've all spent a lot of time in our homes recently, and there's been a heightened focus on personal health. Building a healthy environment in a home is now more of a priority, it seems to me, than it was in the past. And homeowners are more sophisticated. They're asking for things such as light bulbs that mimic circadian rhythm, air conditioning and filtration systems, natural fibers for furnishings, natural paints, low VOC paints, more natural daylight, home gyms, indoor pools, yoga and meditation rooms. So Chuck, I guess I'd like to ask, what are you seeing from clients? Where's their focus in the healthy home? I'm sure it's pretty broad in these homes because they're just, again, extraordinary. But is there a particular area that people seem focused on?
You mentioned a lot of them. I mean, this is a topic that I started seeing discussed in professional circles probably 7, 8 years ago, and I was surprised, given the interest in gyms and exercise and health food, that it didn't seem to catch on quite as quickly. But in the home. So I mean, the simple things are home gyms, spas, exercise places. We get requests for a lot of those. Some is related to aging and age in place. And so, a lot of the homes have some kind of elevator or lift, and we're building blocking into walls for showers, even if they don't need it right away. And upstairs and downstairs, like a second master in case the upstairs master doesn't work as much. Some private spaces for prayer, meditation, kind of quiet spaces. A little bit of interest in like high performance HVAC systems, more for people with allergies and those kind of things. I think the daylight, the sensitivity to daylight is getting to be a bigger focus. And one of the really interesting things now is with LED bulbs, they're making LED bulbs that change color and mimic the time of the day and the season. And we all know we get so much input of blue light from our screens all day long, and that this is something that we can actually do that affects our circadian rhythm and stuff. So I think those things are some things that seem to be frequent requests.
Great. All right. So a lot of questions have come in now. So the prompt prompted good questions. So I'm going to start to kind of rattle these off to people. One question, Julie, is contemporary as a style becoming more popular in our area?
Well, I do think, we live in, colonial, New England, typically, but obviously the modern farmhouse, has been a big trend. So you definitely see, and this is probably actually better answered by Fiona than me, more of that transitional, contemporary type styling going on. And especially the people coming out of New York City, they have a little bit more of a younger, more contemporary taste to them. I don't know, Fiona, you want to add on there?
I feel like yes and no, which is probably my answer to just about everything. People are also craving a little traditional. Floral is back. People want a little nod to what their grandmother had in their house, or creature comfort. So yes, I see lots of clean modern lines, and I think that's not going to go away. But I do think people are interested in color and pattern play. And the biggest thing I've seen is people saying to me, I don't want gray. And that had been all I'd heard. I want gray for the past 10 years. So I think people are changing, and I think it depends on a lot of things. But it's constantly evolving. So I wouldn't say it's going to be completely modern. I think it's going to be like modern granny, kind of.
Okay, good. Here we go. Are white kitchens still the most desirable? Are there new colors and trends you're seeing? Sort of related, but a little more specific.
You want me to tackle that or
Yeah,
Charles?
Fiona, why don't you take it first?
So I think white kitchens aren't going to go out of style, but I think people want to warm them up, whether it's with wood or bringing a kitchen table back into the kitchen in lieu of an island or in addition to an island. I think people are taking more risks than I had seen before. So I think that's exciting. But yes, people still love the idea of a clean white kitchen at the end of the day, just with a little bit of a warming.
Julie, would you agree?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's interesting out there. I went and visited somebody's house the other day and they had all this blue and I said, "Oh my God, you're right on trend." She goes, "Oh, I've had this for years," So it was very kind of, I'm like, you were a trendsetter then because, we are seeing a lot of blue. I personally love blue. Fiona, I don't know if that trend is going to continue or not. But, blue is always a very calming color. And so maybe that's why during this, time people are gravitating towards it. But I know the color trends are actually launched years and years ahead from my design experience on the apparel side. But that's interesting. So
And Chuck, here's one for you from Maria from Rings End. She says, "What a great conversation tonight. Thank you all so very much. We have all seen a shift to design spaces trending with home offices and outdoor spaces since COVID began. What upcoming architectural spatial trends do you foresee in our near future gaining popularity?"
Let's see, spatial trends. I think we've touched on a lot of them. I mean, I think the home office, will still be very important and have staying power. Entertainment spaces of all varieties, and we talked about some of the outdoor ones, but there's a lot of indoor ones that people have expressed interest in, and people work hard and they want to go on vacation in their backyard or down in their basement, and we've done some the last couple of years, 2 or 3 of these very extensive basement renovations where there's rec rooms and spas and sports, a variety of things like that. So I think more and more people are going to want to do that.
A question for Fiona. Could you talk about what's popular in right now in terms of color and texture? I've seen a lot with white and navy, blue, velvet, less is more, great lighting, art. Thank you. That's from Meredith Bach.
Thank you for the question. I'm feeling like more is more right now. More color, more texture, more pattern. People are taking more risks. I think we need some excitement in our lives. And I think I'm seeing my clients branch out where for a decade, all I've heard is blue grass cloth. Now people want pattern and they want color. And even if they're just dipping their toes in and doing a wall, one single wall in a bold wallpaper, they're still doing it. So I think that's what's happening. And I think, taking risks in sort of reasonable ways has become something interesting, whether it's painting your island a color or painting your mudroom built-ins a color. People are ready to do that.
I agree. I think anywhere from dipping your toe into a few people really being bold, and you'll look at the periodicals and there's a number of things published that are very bold with prints and very bright colors. And I think it's coming.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Chuck, for you, I mean, one, some economic prognosticators would say that, following COVID, we could see an experience in the US akin to the Roaring 20s, which I think would be good for all of our businesses. And it wasn't what happened in the Roaring 20s. I mean, there was a new kind of boldness in the architecture, wasn't there? That kind of
I mean, there was so many great, amazing buildings that were built, and I think there was a shift maybe back toward classicism and more traditional architecture. You see in a lot of the fine, both domestic and public projects from the 20s. So, I mean, we'll see how that. I feel like that's got a little ways to go before maybe the pendulum's really swinging back there. But if there's excitement. And, the other thing is, there's such pent up demand for travel. And I think that, people, as soon as they can, are going to travel like crazy. And when I travel, I get really inspired. And I know my clients come back, and when they travel, they want this, whether it's a new oven or some decorative treatment or something like that from where they've been. And so I think we're going to see a lot of a resurgence of a lot more influence of international and travel, and that'll take a whole bunch of different expressions. But I think we're going to see a lot more mixing of these interesting things as people get out more.
I mean, that'd be great, exciting and fun.
Yeah.
Question from Lynn Somerville. Fiona and Chuck, do you think shiplap is a trend or timeless? And thank you to all the panelists.
Timeless.
You want me to start?
Sure.
Curious to see if we agree. I think shiplap is probably here to stay, but for me personally, I like to handle it differently. Change it slightly, run it vertically versus horizontally, paint it a color, give it a texture. I recently worked with a really fun client, and we added grit to it, so it just has a different feel. I think walls need to be treated, and in these large homes, you need variety. But I think doing something new and different with shiplap is the way to go in my book. I think it needs to stay fresh and current.
I mean, I agree. I think it's timeless, but we don't use it a lot. But I think it's timeless, and I think those are wonderful ideas for freshening it up.
So grateful that both of you said that and had that answer, because we redid our entryway with shiplap, and I would have just been so sad at the end of this call if you were to tell me that was so yesterday, and don't do it today. A question for Fiona. When it seems so overwhelming to redecorate and renovate your entire home, what are some of the simplest areas to focus on as a start?
I think the places that you touch every day that impact you. If it's your family room and you're sitting every day and you're looking at your built-ins, and your built-ins are full of family photos, and that drives you crazy, start there. Get some accessories, get some inspiration from Pinterest or magazines, and start styling your bookshelf. And that will lead to the next thing and the next thing. But I typically will start with a family room or a kitchen and then go from there. And it's like editing your closet. Once you start, you sort of get the ball rolling and get excited about it, and you keep on going.
Like as the starting small is some advice I give for people when they're starting to move. I always tell them, I'm like, start with books. Books are very satisfying. They pack well. They go into a box. You feel accomplished, and it kind of gets you moving forward. So anything to get you moving forward, right?
That's a good way to put it. Fiona, quick question for you. Is white kitchen cabinetry or cream kitchen cabinetry more timeless?
I think it depends on the whole house and what the vibe of the house is. I think years ago, I used to pick trim for each color palette in each room in each home. And I think in general, in most of the homes that I work on, we're staying more consistent with trim. So if your house skews more tea stained and more traditional, maybe you want a creamier kitchen cabinet. If your house is more fresh and modern and current, then maybe you want to go a little bit more white. But I think you've got to take the context of the whole home. You don't want the kitchen to just be jarring and jump out from the rest of the house.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question for Chuck that I love. I wish I had thought of this question myself. From Guy Messier. If a client came to you with land and offered you 100% design freedom, what design style, features, and textures would you choose to incorporate in a new construction home?
That depends on where it is, right? So if it's, if it's a beautiful waterfront home, it'd probably be like a New England shingle style, with rustic stone and a lot of textured. If it's, big flat lot, manicured lawn in the middle of, between the coast and backcountry, then it might be a Georgian of some kind, or a formal colonial or something like that. And I would love to do more contemporary work. We got really proficient at doing traditional work and do a wide variety of it. But I love the clean lines and the expression of the materials and the structure in modern homes. And so there isn't one answer. It would really depend on, a lot would depend on the site and what the site inspired in terms of a stylistic direction, probably.
And I think I don't know if others of you experience this, but sometimes I get bombarded by images in social media or LinkedIn. Chuck, do I have this right? Are you going to the Caribbean or to the islands with a client?
Yes, we're designing actually this week. I started design on a house in St. Croix.
And what will that style be? So
that's going to be kind of like a Caribbean. It's a stucco exterior, and in this case, it'll probably have a metal roof or something more than a stone Bermuda roof. But somewhat traditional, but pretty clean. And it's amazing site overlooking up on a hilltop, looking with sweeping views down. And so a lot of like indoor outdoor materials and open ceilings, and it's so exciting.
That sounds great. Is that for a client?
I love doing waterfront work. It's like one of my favorite things, and I've never gotten a chance to work in the islands before, so this is a great opportunity.
Is that a client bringing you there who you've worked with in this?
Somebody I've known a long time, and circled back and ready for a retirement home. So,
are you scared about the construction process down there?
We'll partner with like we have a house. We work across the country, and when we work far away, we'll typically work with a local firm who will be the architect of record, and we'll be the design firm. So we'll do the design work and then hand it off because it's they got Category 5 hurricanes. It's a seismic zone 4. There's a lot of, they don't have any water, so you have to capture all your rainwater and feed the house with it. So there's electricity's partially coming from solar. There's a lot of technical sides to creating a great house down there. So
that is going to be so cool. I can't wait to see the pictures. Can't wait to see the pictures.
Okay.
Question for, I think this might be a good one for Fiona. Are built-ins instead of furniture popular now? Are they a trend?
Built-ins always have their place, in my opinion. I was actually just working on a client's living room last night, and she was looking for a place to house some of her kids' games and puzzles. And I was just thinking of all of the furniture that's in there and thinking we don't need another piece of free floating furniture. We need something built in that sort of fades away. So yes, I think there's always a place for it. Absolutely.
And I've got a question from someone in the audience saying, talk about the variance between access to walk to services versus away from town. I think that means the difference between homes located near town where you can walk to the coffee shop or the restaurants versus, in the northern or southern parts of town. Julie, that's probably a good question for you.
Yeah, maybe value is what they're referring to. I'm not sure. What was interesting is during the last valuation in town, there were different grades put on different neighborhoods, and this closer to town did get a higher grade value by the tax assessor. I think that COVID has kind of erased that, to tell you the truth. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens in 2023 with the next reval.
Yeah, we did an analysis of this. We always hire interns from the high school, and one year I actually did a pretty deep dive on the statistics around how houses within walking distance of town valuation-wise had performed relative to houses that were not within walking distance. And you could see that the homes within walking distance were definitely, from a value point of view, outperforming. They were losing less value. Although I think I mentioned to you guys on the call, and I love sharing this with people. I went on Zillow recently, to look at something, and it was the first time in my memory that Zillow predicted an increase in the value of a home in Darien generally. I think it was like a 9 or a 10. The algorithm is saying that, based on supply, demand, and trends, that they predicted a 10% increase in value, which, I mean, I don't know. I don't look at that carefully. I don't follow it or track it that carefully, but that was a very encouraging thing to see.
Take it.
Yeah. I think that they actually, I mean, I have my love-hate relationship with Zillow, as most people know. But I do think that we could easily see, 5 to 10% this spring with the lack of inventory we have, but that, assumes that everything remains the same. Now, if 200 people throw their homes on the market, it will be different.
Yeah.
So.
And the construction costs are going up. The materials have already skyrocketed, and the labor is starting to follow. And so I think it's necessarily going to have to follow, as people build new things. So
we've got 2 more questions, and then I think we will probably end. For Charles and Julie, what are some of the mistakes people make in over improving their homes?
Julie's probably going to be able to answer this better, but I think anything that's too personal and doesn't have broad appeal, and so some of the things that maybe make some of the best architecture may not make some of the best investments. So anything that's too personal or obviously too much off trend, but there's so many ways you could go there.
So since I love Elvis Presley, you're saying I shouldn't create a jungle room?
I don't know about the jungle room stuff.
I don't like the jungle room. I don't know. I always tell people this. I'm like, I totally agree with that statement. Anything too personal. But then there's the flip side of it, and Fiona might agree with me here, is what? You live in your home. You should enjoy your home the way you want to enjoy your home, but do it with the understanding that not every dollar you put in is a dollar out. Just like we will take a vacation and spend $20,000 to go somewhere fabulous. Rationally, if you look dollar for dollar and how much time we spent there, that probably doesn't make sense. So sometimes you have to apply that same theory to your home and go, you know what? That leopard runner up my front hall makes me really happy. So I'm going to do it. I know that it doesn't have the widest appeal when I go to resell it. So, that's what I advise people. So not everything you do in your home, is necessarily just a financial investment. You have to understand that some of this is because it brings you joy, but do it in a way that you're conscious that it might not be everybody else's choice.
Well said.
I have to say that one of the greatest the silver linings from COVID was what's happened in the market, because I think where we were before, where people just felt like the values were going nowhere, maybe down, it was really hard to rationalize investing in your home without some worry about the economic consequence or outcome, right? So given what's going on today, I think it's a good thing for the design and architecture and building industries, and that you can feel a lot better investing in your home today and making it what you want and making it how you want it to be, so you can enjoy it maximally. But it's a lot easier to do that when the values are going up than where they'd been. So thankfully, we're in such a better place.
Well, and when you're spending so much time in your home, I think previously people would eat out much more than they are now. But now you're cooking at home and you're eating at home and you're doing small group entertaining at home. I mean, home has such a different meaning. It's not just where you end up at 7 o'clock at night and wake up on Saturday morning. It's where you're doing everything. So I think that need has changed. The need
I hope that persists to an extent, right? I mean, it will be great to be able to hug a friend again and shake hands and be together and be at a party or a concert. But I hope we hold on to elements of that beyond mass vaccination.
And we're all looking forward to some fine new dining and shopping in Darien coming soon.
Absolutely.
I think that should probably be a wrap. It's 8:06. We went a little bit over time, but people hung with us. And I guess I did want to ask each of you, but before we go, maybe I should ask one last question. we talked about the idea of a prediction. Like if you had to make a prediction, an interesting prediction of where the market will be for, selling or buying a home, interior design or architecture, where you think things will be in a year, what would each of your best guess?
My best guess is we won't sell as many homes this year because we just don't have them to sell. And if you are thinking of selling your home, if you, have not, put it off because you thought prices were down, strike while the iron's hot, get it out there, get it on the market. I mean, with very little competition out there, people are doing very, very well. Things are going very quickly, but they still have to be priced right. So I think it's going to be a good year. I'm optimistic.
I think
Fiona?
people are going to be so excited to welcome friends and family into their homes and to have dinner parties again. I grew up around dinner parties, and my mother loved to host things, and I think our generation has gotten away from that. We all go out for dinner, we have small cocktail parties, or we do things outside. But I think people have spent money and time in their homes, and they sort of want to welcome people in. So I think that's going to be a nice change, and to show off the hard work that they've done over the past year or two.
And I think in addition to all that, I think our homes will continue to get greener and smarter. There's so much interest. You just look at the stock market and all the technology, and all the EVs and all these things. And I think the revolution, the green revolution, and the smart technology and the mobile technologies just keep ramping up. And I think we're just going to see that get, and I'm so happy about it, more and more integrated into our homes.
Well, on that note, thank you, each of you, for joining us, and for the audience again. This is Chuck's book, Classic Greenwich Houses, available at the Barrett Bookstore. Amazing book. Chuck, I have only one complaint about the book. When we do this again in a few years, I'm really hoping we can have a classic Darien houses.
I'll get right to work on that. Call tomorrow and we'll
Or you can
All
find
right.
a computer.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
David.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Darien
So fun.
Library.
Great to be with you all.